welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who'd have thought they'd lead ya? Who'd have thought they'd lead ya? Back here where we need ya. Back here where we need ya. Yeah, the tease in my lot, 'cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome.
All right, so y'all, welcome back. Give it a stretch. Oh, that's good. Hopefully, that last work session was a productive one for you. Yeah, I'm still just going through the radio show post radio show promo stuff. Got a couple of social media done, but then of course you get sucked into the social media black hole. So I was just like kind of like scrolling when I know I should have just been posting it, but it's getting there. All right, so for this break session, I want to talk about. I'm going to kind of take you all on a journey. So let me do this and get rid of that. All right, I'm going to kind of take you along on a journey, and so that you can get like the full picture of what I'm trying to convey. All right. So I'm adding links. Let me see, share my screen. All right, so this here is my latest side project that I released, right? Like last week or something. And it's basically just a site to where I can throw some of the smaller side projects, I call my light work, to a place that where they don't need like their own domain, or they could be components of things that I use in other projects. You know what I'm saying? And so for example, so like things like web components that I made. So like just real quick. So here's like a prize wheel web component that I created. And so like 6, enter, and then you can like spin. All right, it's random, so it's you never know what you can get. Then bam. All right, so there's that. Cool. Then other stuff like little tools that I may make. So like I create a lot of random projects, like especially for work, like spinning up different demos and things. And some of them require like a back end, and sometimes I need like private keys. And so instead of in like uploading the private key and then calling it in the back end, for me it's just easier to create them as environment variables. And so I just kind of created this thing to where I can choose the private key and it'll give me what I need to copy and paste in the variable. Cool. So that's basically what the site is for. But as with a lot of my projects, I always like to have an about section. And instead of having to recreate an about section every time, I created a web component that will pull information from like a API endpoint that I create that has all the information about the project. And then it will just render this here, right? And so now the thing is, though, that it does this stuff because you saw it kind of took a second to load, right? That's because it's pulling the information, setting up the all this stuff on the inside here, and then rendering it, right? And so I always wanted this to be able to be a server-side rendered thing because there's no interactivity. Like there's nothing that, all these are just, regular HTML elements. They just, there's nothing, there's no counter, there's nothing, you know what I'm saying? And so I always thought this would be really cool to be able to render on a server and just show it. So there's a few folks have been working on it. So for example, shouts to the good folks at it's showing the good folks at Lit. So I actually use Lit to create a lot of my web components. So they're actually working on a server-side rendering thing where it's a package. I'm saving a link to this so you can check it out. Where it's on your node, in your node application, you load this package and then it will do the rendering and then spit the HTML and CSS down to it. So you can just get it that with no JavaScript that needs to be loaded, right? Because it's all done on the server. Cool. So that's something that's coming up. So they're working on that. Is it still? Yeah, it's still experimental, right? Cool. Now, it also reminds me from the other good folks over at Enhanced uh, they have like a whole framework that you can build using like components, so like web components, and they server side render them, right? And so in their uh, in in their environments, sure, called elements. And so elements are reusable building blocks for your of your enhanced application. So within their framework, they're called elements. We'll talk about something later because I just saw they had something new. I guess it was a blog post about it. That's pretty cool. So this is server side rendered, and it's just like HTML, CSS. Now, if you need some JavaScript, they have a thing for that also, and we'll talk about that in another break session. So yeah, so shout out to the good folks at what you call it, at Enhance or Begin. They're the ones who create Enhance, right? Also, I think we spoke about this before previously, but they also have this thing called Enhance WASM, right? And so this does is write once SSR anywhere. So it's like its own contained element, which seems pretty cool. So there's not like a lot about it. So I think that's coming soon. So you'll be able to run it in all these different places, right? And so like they have this, I guess you can check it out. It uses a thing called Elysium, I think it was, or something like that to make it all work. I don't know, over my head for right now. So yeah, cool. So again, another way of like server-side rendering web components. Dope. Then I was doing some stuff in Cloudflare. I saw they had this blog post. And so they have this new product called Zaraz. Why it's called Zaraz, I'm not sure. Only thing I know is a palindrome. It's spelled the same way forward as backwards. Awesome. So I saw that they add support for server-side rendering of X and Instagram embeds. I'm like, that's kind of interesting, right? So I was kind of like reading through it. And it kind of talks about, so we're thrilled to announce Cloudflare Zaraz support of server-side rendering of embeds. I'm like, oh, embeds. Interesting. So featuring two managed components, components, X, Twitter, and Instagram. So now you can use it to effortlessly embed posts from Twitter or Instagram on your website in a performant, privacy-preserving, and secure way. And those are other things that like Lit mentions here in their server-side rendering stuff. So performance, SEO, and web crawlers, robustness. I'm like, okay, these things are sounding familiar, right? And so many traditional tag managers or customer data platforms rely heavily on third-party JavaScript and cookies to embed content. So I'm almost like, embedding the stuff that your web component shows up, leading to concerns about privacy and performance. In contrast, we designed our solution to work without loading any third-party JavaScript or cookies, and furthermore, to completely eliminate communication between the browser and third-party servers. I'm like, that's server-side rendering. So I go through a bunch of stuff. They talk about, okay, where is it? You can see the performance, cool. You see without it, what happens. And okay, so using and building embeds, right? So how to embed posts using Cloudflare Zaraz, right? So now notice, so for Twitter, you see there's this Twitter post element. I'm like, okay. And then you put the tweet ID. But there's no, and then for like Instagram, it's Instagram post. You put the post URL similar to the tweet ID, but you put the actual URL. And then if you want captions along with it, right? But then the thing is, there's no, because normally with web components, you need to like load a JavaScript file so that the browser, when it comes across a element that's not a normal element, it uses the JavaScript to know what to do with it, right? But that's not here, right? And that's because in the back end, in your Cloudflare Zaraz, what is it called, dashboard, you enable them. So I'm thinking like all the JavaScript stuff is happening there, so that when Cloudflare gets a request for your page, right, it's going to come across these random tags, HTML tags, but then see that, oh, you have these things enabled, and then render it in on the Cloudflare servers, and then pass that down to the browsers with everything server-side rendered. So I'm like, this is basically like server-side rendering, could be like web components, basically. You know what I'm saying? And so I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. And so, and they talk about, and this is the stuff I guess that's behind the scenes that you would have, when you're creating it, like here, because you can create your own, or you can pull from a list that other people have created, kind of like web components. Dope. Now, they go into more stuff here. They even say, like, they even have like a register embed, how like in there's a custom elements define in web components. All right. So, okay, I'm just doing like comparisons. So dope. And you can even pass in like different variables and things. All right. Cool. So now then I was like, oh, okay, pretty dope. So let me find out more about the Zaraz thing, right? And so it took me to the documentation. Here we go. And so offload third-party tools and services to the cloud and improve the speed and security of your website. And I'm thinking, I wonder if there's a way, like all the JavaScript stuff that's in my about web components, all the stuff to make the call to the endpoint, because I could probably make it to where one of the attributes I pass in is the endpoint, right? And then be able to, that's if I was like creating something for this, right? Like just thinking out loud as to how I see it could be used if I wanted to use a Cloudflare Zaraz. Do all the stuff I'm doing in the web components JavaScript stuff, do that here, and then in the dashboard enable it so that whenever it sees, and I called the web component, my about page thing, Dwayne-made. So whenever it comes across that element, then it would know to render it. And so I'm thinking that's pretty much like the same thing, I guess, in my brain. And I thought, okay, custom managed components. Cool. So then that took me down a rabbit hole, and I found this managed components.dev, which reminds me, I don't think let me catch up. I've been talking and not posting the links to these things. So let me add that. Add this one. I'm adding the enhanced stuff, the Cloudflare stuff. This one. Add that. There's a lot of links. And then finally this one. And save all that. All right. So yeah. So manage components, fast and safe third-party tools. And I think a lot of this is for like tracking and like analytics and things, right? So then they have this thing where you can write your own managed component. Cool. And so you see performance, secure and private, free and open source. And a lot of that sounds just like the web component stuff, right? And so I'm so there's not really a lot here, but if you go to here, well, getting started. So write your own managed joint, right? And then it's just basically, I forgot the command that npm init manage -component. And I guess it'll step you through it, right? It'll build out like a scaffolding for you, kind of like how OpenWC does for you, right? And then you can test it and you can share it. Okay, cool. Yeah, dope. So they tell you how you can kind of like let other people use it. Great. Then components, specifications. Okay, so these are all the different things that you can do with it. Cool. Storage, that's cool. And then components, they have all these different ones. So you see like Bing, Facebook Pixel, Google Analytics. So like I said, I think a lot of these are for analytics and like tracking and stuff. And they have like the Twitter thing here or what have you, right? And so, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Again, I guess I'm so much into web components where everything basically could be like a web component in my mind. And so, yes, I'm going to look a little more into it. It's pretty kind of interesting. So it's almost like in the same vein of like having because the thing is with so this is different from like a server-side web component, because the server-side web component would still have like I don't know how the manage thing would work. Maybe it's the same way, but here it would still have like Dwayne-made, but it would have all the stuff in like the light DOM inside of it. So like it would say like this is the place of the light projects inside of it. Like you'd see that there instead of being like in the shadow DOM. You know what I'm saying? Because it was server-side render. It was created, and so it looked just like HTML and sent down and styled with CSS. Yeah. Whereas I think with the managed, I wonder if it replaces the tag or does it keep the tag there? I haven't played with it, but it's interesting that it's kind of like you're setting it up in the server to the dashboard, so it's not like you're using a like a lit SSR renderer or whatever Enhance has. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking it's close. Maybe it's closer to Enhance, because I think Enhance, they handle all that stuff for you, so you wouldn't have to install the package. It just comes like along with the framework. And so I think it's kind of similar to that. I don't know, but I just thought it was kind of cool that there's like another paradigm on the whole rendering, I guess, in my mind, like web components. Because I think for me, if I wanted to render web components, I'm using Cloudflare, I would use the Zaraz thing, figure out how to do all that rendering there, and then just put my elements in my thing if it's going to be. But then if you're not hosting on Cloudflare, then I guess it would break, right? And then how would you share it? Because it would only be available for folks who use the Zaraz thing on Cloudflare. So, because like with my web component, I have this like on different hosting. Like I have it on like Firebase, Cloudflare, I think Netlify. So all these different places, because it's all kind of like combined. And then they're using Node on the back end, so I would be able to use like the lit SSR package in all those places. But then I think Enhance is on AWS, and so they have like their own framework to do all that stuff. Yeah, so it's just so it all depends on your use case, basically. So there's no right or wrong; it just depends on your use case. But I just thought that was kind of interesting, and I wanted to share it here. And so with all my babbling, we're over. So I think it's cool. What do y'all think? Let me know. I'm gonna get y'all back to work because I want to finish up my post radio show promo stuff is the goal, and then also get started on this application I've been working on and get this functionality working, and then maybe start work on the web component that will then take that new functionality and be able to display it. Because I have to now be able to show it. And so I'm using, it wasn't the original like focus, the scope didn't include this thing, but now we're including it. So I want the web component to be able to show it. Neither here nor there. All right, I'm gonna get y'all back to work. I'm gonna send y'all off with some traveling music. This is a track by an artist that goes by the name of Anthony Cruz, aka A Butter. The track is called Thank You. I'll see y'all 15 minutes after the hour. Till then, I wish you much productivity. Y'all be easy, and peace. Thanks, y'all.
I wanna say thank you for holding on when a brother was down and out. Now I feel so strong, and I wanna say thank you for being there when the brother had nowhere to turn to. You were there, and I feel like hell. And everybody says hell. We spread love like hell. I wanna say thank you for holding on when a brother was down and out. Now I feel so strong, and I wanna say thank you for being there when the brother had nowhere to turn to. You were there, and I feel like hell. And everybody says hell. We spread love like hell. I wanna say thank you.